What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel, and now welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed. You guys, today, like I told y'all on Tuesday, I'm doing a mashup kind of between my urban legend and like the fact or fiction videos. So I'm super excited because there are several urban legends that I found to be so interesting. It just wasn't enough information online for me to make a whole video. And some of them were based off of true actual people and events, and some of them were not. So I thought, why not marry the two? Urban legends and fact or fiction, and then I'll let you guys guess which ones are real true life events and which ones are your guess is as good as mine as far as where they came from. Of course, at the end of the video, I will reveal which ones were true and which ones were not. And you get to see how good your intuition or your knowledge is about urban legends. Now, the first one I'm going to get into hails out of Beijing, and it is the story of the ghost bus. Now, legend has it that on November 14th of 1995, on a dark and gloomy night, a young college student is waiting to catch the midnight bus back to his home in Fragrant Hills. The last bus of the night pulls up, bus 375 or bus 302, depending on what site you're reading this urban legend on, and the young man takes a seat next to an older woman. Shortly after the bus takes off, two men attempt to wave the bus down, and initially the bus driver is not going to stop because they're not at an official bus stop. But the conductor reminds him that it is the last bus of the night. Would kind of be a jerk thing to do to leave these men stranded. So at that point he decides to go ahead and stop. And once the mysterious roadside men are on board, all the rest of the passengers are kind of curious as to why the men are dressed in these robes. And they had sworn that they had seen just two men, but now all of a sudden there are three. The third man is not dressed like the other two. He has very long, messy hair covering most of his face and is being held up by the other two. They also notice that the two men in robes, their faces are a lot whiter than a normal person's face. And they also think it's kind of odd that the men don't interact with anybody else on the bus. They don't acknowledge anyone. They just take the seats in the very back of the bus. Naturally, the other commuters are all very curious. Some of them are a little bit worried by the men's presence, but the conductor says that maybe they are actors and maybe they didn't have time to get out of costume after work. And this seems like a pretty plausible explanation for it, so it kind of eases the passengers who are listening to him. They actually feel kind of silly that they didn't think of something like that. Like, why did it have to be extreme? Why did they have to be creepy? All except the older woman, who is still very leery of these men. She keeps turning around, staring at the three of them as they sit there in very eerie silence. One could argue that they just minding their business. Okay? None of the passengers say a word. All you can hear is the wind outside and the tires on the bus sliding down the wet streets. It is just silent. Slowly, the bus empties of passengers until it is only the older woman, the college student, the three men in the back, the conductor, and the driver. The unsettling silence continues until the older woman, suddenly out of nowhere, jumps up and accuses the college student of stealing her wallet. And this claim results in a huge argument between the two of them. The young man is adamant that he is not taking this woman's wallet, and she continues to scream that he did, and she is not letting up. She then suggests that the two of them get off the bus, like right there, because there is a police station nearby, and they can go there and have them sorted out. Once off the bus, they walk a little bit, and then the older lady tells him that there isn't no police station nearby, and initially he is enraged because, girl, this was the last bus. Why did you have me get off and there's no police station? And she, who was just getting her carrying on, yelling, is all of a sudden very calm. Like, girl, we are stranded in the middle of, I don't know where, and in the middle of the night. But fortunately for him, she had picked up on something that he had not. The two strange robed men, according to the woman, did not have feet, and in a ghostly kind of way. She explained that one time the doors of the bus had opened up to let passengers off. Wind came in, blew their robes, and she saw that they did not have feet. According to her, there was nothing there and they had to have been ghosts. And the young man thinks she's absolutely nuts. He does manage to make his way home that evening, as does the older woman. And he's just irritated by the whole thing, but it's over, or so he thinks, until he catches the news where it is being reported that a bus had gone missing, bus 375. Right away he thinks about what the old lady had told him, and he's like, maybe it was a ghost for real, maybe something happened, but brushes it off. I mean, regardless of the fact, he was kind of happy that she had put on that show and gotten them off the bus, but not as much as he is when 3 days later the bus is discovered in a reservoir just a couple of miles before it would have reached its final destination of Fragrant Hills, where he lived. And inside of the bus are 3 heavily decomposed bodies: the driver, the conductor, and an unidentified man with long hair. Investigators are puzzled because they aren't able to find any surveillance camera footage that would show the bus going into the reservoir. And according to them, the level of decomposition that had occurred could not have possibly occurred in just 3 days. They don't really get answers as to what happened to these people, but that young man is super grateful for the older woman seeing whatever she saw that night that they were on the bus. Now on to urban legend number 2, the story of La Pascualita, the corpse bride, or just a shop mannequin. Apparently no one knows for sure. On the 25th of March in 1930, Pascuala's Bridal Boutique in Chihuahua, Mexico displays a new bridal mannequin wearing a beautiful bridal gown from their spring-summer collection. And this figure attracts a lot of attention as soon as she makes her first appearance. Now, typically, a new mannequin in a store would not be anything to write home about. However, the locals are immediately taken aback by this mannequin's very eerie appearance and its super realistic and uncanny resemblance to the shop's late daughter. Now, the owner of the shop, Pascuala, she loved weddings, and she always had, even when she was a young girl. She loved everything about them, but especially the bride's dress. And since she's opened up her shop, she's dreamt of the day that she would get to be the mother of the bride, helping her own daughter choose the right dress. But until then, she lives vicariously through her customers. Finally, the day is coming where she gets to witness her own daughter walk down the aisle in a beautiful gown that she'd chosen. But unfortunately, in the days leading up to her daughter's wedding, she's bitten by a black widow spider. And tragically, she succumbs to the poison on the morning of her wedding. So naturally, when this mannequin shows up in the shop that eerily resembles her now deceased daughter, people begin to talk. It's a little strange. A few of the locals actually confront her about the mannequin being in the store window and creeping everybody out. And when they accuse her of having her daughter embalmed and in the window, she denies that this is her daughter, but nobody believes her. When asked to show proof that this was an actual mannequin and not a preserved body, she would always refuse, which further indicates to the locals that she is not telling the truth. Now, if she is just a mannequin, she is the most lifelike mannequin you ever will see. All of her features are super realistic. She has thick, lifelike eyelashes. She has rosy cheeks, varicose veins in her thighs and on her hands. There are even really tiny veins on the eyeballs. So for years, people have speculated whether or not she is the embalmed body truly displayed in the window, or if she's just simply a mannequin created with excellent detail. Now, her presence has even been rumored to disturb some of the shop workers. One claimed that every time they will go near her, their hands break out in a sweat, and with all of the veins that she has, like in her eyeballs, hands, and legs, that particular worker was convinced that she was not just a mannequin. She does lose some employees who also think that it is a real person, and it's just not gonna stick around, okay? How am I supposed to eat lunch in the back with her in the front? That's not gonna work. It wouldn't work for me either. There's even been other employees as well as customers who have claimed that the mannequin has moved, and she's changed positioned slightly on her own, or she's made slight movements like in their peripheral vision. There's also an alternative version of this urban legend that says that she had started out as just a mannequin, the same as any other one in the store, well, kind of the same, but according to a French magician, a little more attractive. He had made a visit and had become so entranced by the bride in the window that he would visit her each night and bring her to life. And the two of them would go on romantic dates around the dark city. They would have picnics, doing whatever they can to enjoy each other's company while everyone else is asleep, and then he would return her before the morning. And according to this version of the urban legend, each time that he visited her, she'd take on more lifelike details and features. Now, the original owner of the shop has since passed away, and La Pascualita still remains inside the window and has now become somewhat of a tourist attraction. And whenever the current owner is asked about the true origins of this mannequin, he just winks and says, "I really couldn't say." And last but not least, the urban legend of Charlie No Face. Now, if you've grown up in the Pittsburgh area, you've probably heard of Charlie No Face or the legend of the Green Man, who, as a young boy, had climbed an electric pole to peer into a bird's nest, had touched the wire by accident and was electrocuted. Now he survives, but unfortunately, this accident leaves his nose, lips, ears, and eyes all melted together and his arms maimed. The one that had reached for the pole is completely gone. As he grows up, he quickly becomes aware of people's cruel nature, earning nicknames like the zombie and being subjected to the terrified screams of young children. It gets to the point where he becomes a recluse, rarely venturing outside during the daytime due to his appearance and the reactions that he will receive to it. He enjoys nature and he wants to still enjoy outside and all of the things. So he starts taking these walks at night, just in the area near his home where he was really familiar. And he would often wear this bright green jacket just in case he didn't see somebody, maybe they saw him and didn't hit him. And just like in the daytime, he is still kind of frightening everyone that he comes in contact with. Now, as time goes on, the locals begin to refer to him as Charlie No Face, obviously due to his lack of recognizable facial features. And the less they see him, the more stories surface about him, some of which being completely far-fetched. They'd add a little razzle-dazzle to him to make him a little more salacious, like him having gained the ability or the power of electricity after the accident and being able to, send off little volts and generate electricity. People would often dare each other to go out and roam the area where he is known to walk at night to catch a glimpse of him. And child, by the time the rumors about this faceless man makes their way to college campuses and high school grounds, he is now a faceless ghost. And many of these stories about him and people's encounters with him send many of these curious kids out on a hunt. He actually takes these ghost hunts in stride though, because for a while he is agreeing to pose for pictures with them for a fee. Sometimes that fee could be coupled with cigarettes or beer. Really, Bella? You don't even know the story, girl. Be quiet. Thank you. Now, his little life isn't all bad. He does have family that he spends time with, and those who have had like normal human interactions with him have said that he is very kind and a very gentle human. And he continues to go on these nightly walks until his death in the late 80s. But by then, people had not seen much of him and he had somewhat become immortalized. Stories about him continue to surface. After all, he is a ghost at this point, right? He is a faceless ghost, so it's kind of hard for them to kill a ghost. But the stories of him post-mortem actually take a darker turn when they become about him being an angry, vengeful spirit out for teenage blood. Somehow the story became that he had started out as friendly, and that's why, some people have photos with him. But over time, something happened. He turned on the teens and began to hunt them. Now, let's test your knowledge and see how much you know. Because of the three stories that I told, some of them really happened and some of them have not been able to be fact checked. Story number one, Beijing and their ghost bus. This one, although it is a very popular urban legend, has not been able to be fact checked whatsoever, and simply just that, an urban legend. So, story number two, with the corpse bride, La Pascualita. If you guess that this was just like story number one, simply just an urban legend, you would be wrong. This is actually, well, it's urban legend, but it actually is based off of a true story. And here are the photos of this super hyper realistic mannequin that is supposedly not, nor has it ever been human. You let me know what you think. 'Cause I think mama might be a corpse. I don't know. I never made a mummy girl. They never taught me about mummies and the logistics of mummies in school, so I don't know how long they last. If it will last in the Chihuahua, Mexico heat, window, storefront of a store, I don't know. But I know what she looks like. Me. And of course, last but not least, urban legend number three about Charlie No Face, aka the Green Man. This urban legend is also true. It revolves around a man by the name of Raymond Robinson who passed away in 1985. But yes, these events truly transpired, and he has now become immortalized with all of these different versions of these tales. And one of the sources that I read said to this day, kids in college still pull up to the area at night calling out for Charlie No Face, trying to catch a glimpse of him, get a photo of him. And some of them still claim to have seen him in the darkness. And that is pretty much all I have for you. Let me know in the comments down below how you did. How many you got right? How many did you get wrong? And if you had heard of any of the three that we had discussed today. Don't forget to like the video before you go, share the video, subscribe if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. All of them except for the older woman, who is still very, really Bella. But one could, ugh. She is rolling around back there with her mouth open. Don't play dead now. She always wants y'all to think it's really me and she's not the problem. Look at her playing dead. Like, oh, I'm just back here laying down, being still and quiet. Don't gaslight me, Bella. The story of La Paz, girl, just leave it. We just gonna take the first take. I said it smoothly. Let's just roll with that. Leave well enough alone. The moral of today's story. Finally, the day comes for her to be mother of the bride. Tripped over my words as I felt like my tongue was tripping. And now, last but not least, urban legend. What? Urban legend? Let's not do that today. Let's not. Hoping to catch a glimpse of this mysterious feature. Beijing and their ghost bus. Ghostbusters. This video, not this video, what am I talking about? If you guess that these legless ghosts really, I guess, hijacked the boat, not the boat, hijacked the bus. This one, as far as story number three, okay, what was story number? I said three, I was thinking two, I was confused. I want grilled cheese.